Just let me know, Charlie. All right, welcome everyone to the Old Colony MPO meeting today. You guys put up the accessibility statement in Title VI notice, and then I will turn it over to Charlie for roll call. All right, this meeting is accessible to people with disabilities. Microphones or telephones will be used by all speakers. If you would like these accommodations, please contact Mary Walden at 508-583-1833, extension 202. And the notice of non-discrimination rights and protections to beneficiaries with regard to the federal Title VI non-discrimination protections and the state non-discrimination protections is included on this meeting's agenda. It is available on the Old Colony Planning Council website at www.ocpcrpa.org. Please contact Mary Walden at 508-583-1833, extension 202 for more information. Thank you. All right, Charlie, do you want to read the roll? And then we'll get into public comments, if any.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So City of Brockton, we have John Messier representing Mayor Sullivan.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I will be representing Mayor Robert Sullivan's office, City Hall of Brockton.
Thank you, John. Welcome. MassDOT Steve Wolfel.
Steve Wolfel here, representing Secretary and CEO of MassDOT, Jimmy Tesler.
MassDOT, I believe we have Barbara LaChance.
Good morning. Pam Hasner is also here.
Good morning. Pam, you'll be representing Administrator Gulliver.
Correct. Pam Hasner representing Highway Administrator Gulliver, Mass DOT. Thanks, Charlie.
Great. Thank you, Pam. Welcome.
Thanks.
Brockton Area Transit Administrator Michael Lambert.
Here.
And Old Colony Planning Council Executive Director Mary Waldron.
Good morning. Representing Val Massard, our new chair of our council. So good morning, everyone.
And I was looking to see if Vice Chair Meredith Anderson is on from West Bridgewater Board of Selectmen. I don't see her on the list. And then Dan Salvucci, Vice Chair, Board of Selectmen, Whitman.
Good morning, everyone.
Welcome, Dan. Chair, I report that we do have a quorum present.
All right, thank you, Charlie. Thank you, and welcome everyone. Are there any members of the public who would like to address the MPO today? All right, seeing none, let's move to the next agenda item, which is the minutes for the June 21st, 2022 meeting. Can I get a motion and second to approve?
I will motion Dan Salvucci Whitman.
Second. Michael.
All right, that was Michael. Any questions or comments or changes?
Look good.
None. Charlie, you want to read the roll?
Yes, John Messier,
Yes, here.
Danielle Salvucci,
Approve.
Steve Wolfel,
Yes.
Pam Hasner,
Approve.
Michael Lambert,
Yes.
and Mary Waldron.
Approve.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right, we will now move on to the next item, which is the update from BAT. Michael, you want to take it away?
Sure. Thank you, Chair. We have a few quick updates today. One is good news on the ridership front. We continue to improve week over week and set post-pandemic records. We're hanging around about 72% of pre-pandemic levels currently, hoping to get up to 75 by the end of the summer. We installed electric vehicle charger at our administrative office a couple weeks ago. So there's two different spots to charge your vehicles there. And then we have two more coming for the garage, for the transit garage shortly. Let's see, we've mentioned this before, but we received a grant from MassDOT to extend the transit platform at Westgate Mall, which is at the Market Basket. So that will create a longer transit platform for the 3 different routes that serve that stop, and add shelters and signage and lighting. So many thanks to MassDOT for that. And that project is set to get underway mid-August. And then finally, we will have some tip updates for you later on in the meeting that will be presented by Charlie, and Glenn Geiler is available here for any questions should they arise.
All right, any questions for Michael? All right, thanks, Mike. next agenda item is an update from District 5 on projects. Barbara, I assume it's you.
Good morning, everybody. Barbara LaChance with District 5. Some project updates for you. First one is Stoughton, which would be Central Street, Canton Street, and Tosca Drive. 100% for that project have been completed, and we anticipate the PSNEs in January of 23. Stoughton corridor improvements on Route 138. The 75% review was completed, and the comment resolution meeting was just done for that last week. So they're moving forward with that project. Duxbury, the bridge replacement, Route 3 over Franklin Street. The DJW is in and is under review. Also, we need a schedule for that project. Brockton, intersection improvements at Center Street and Plymouth Street. There was an interim 25% submission received in the beginning of June for that. And a follow-up comment resolution meeting is scheduled for that interim submission later this week, actually. Brockton, intersection improvements at Center Street, Carey Street, and Lyman Street. 75% are anticipated for the beginning of August of this year for that project. Brockton, Lyman Street, Grove Street, Summer Street, and the replacement of the Grove Street Bridge project. The revised bridge type study was completed in last year, and we anticipate the 25% for that project later the end of this year in December. Easton corridor improvements on 138, which is 138 in Elm Street. The design public hearing was held in May, and we do anticipate the 75% for that project in mid-August of this year. Hanson, Route 14 from the Pembroke Town Line to Indian Head Street. The SUE is being scheduled to locate the water main, so they're still working on that. Abington, intersection improvements at Hancock and Chestnut. The 25% have been received for that in April and are still under review. Duxbury, Route 3 at the Route 3 ramps, excuse me, at Route 3A. Kickoff meeting was held for that project last year, and I believe we also need a schedule for that project. In Brockton, intersection improvements at Crescent Street, Quincy Street, and Massasoit Boulevard. I believe the city is still reviewing design alternatives for that, so we have no recent activity on that, and we do not have a schedule. We need a schedule for that one also. And that's it for my updates for today.
All right, anyone have any questions for Barbara either on those projects or any other projects? All right, seeing none, thanks, Barbara.
Thank you.
We'll move on to agenda item 6, which has got 2 parts. So I think the first is an adjustment. So actually, Charlie, I'll just turn it right over to you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So as you said, there are 2 action items within agenda item 6, the first being adjustment number 2 and the second being amendment 3. First, let's draw our attention to adjustment number 2, which actually includes 5 minor changes to Brockton area transit project cost estimates for projects, and we'll quickly run through that. So on the first one, you see there's actually a nominal increase on the price of this project by $164. It's for capital maintenance items. Next slide, please. Project number 2 is acquiring miscellaneous support equipment, and the adjustment here is increasing the funding by approximately $25,000. Project number 3 is their project for the 3 replacement buses. The project price has increased a little bit by approximately $24,000. Project number 4, acquire shop equipment, lifts, and equipment. Actually, to make those other projects whole, there's a decrease in some of the funding, so this is decreasing by about $16,000. And I note that those 4 projects are all funded within the 5307 FTA funding category. And to note that those increases are being covered by an additional state funding. And last but not least, in this adjustment is acquire stationary bus fare collection equipment for the fixed route to adjust this cost a little bit downward by about $33,000. So these are adjustments for these 5 projects. Staff has reviewed this, and note that this has been vetted by MassDOT Rail and Transit and MassDOT Office of Transportation Planning as well. And now it's before the MPO for review and consideration for endorsement.
All right, can I get a motion and a second to approve adjustment 2, and then I'll open to any questions. one has.
I'll make that motion, Dan Salvucci Whitman.
I will second it, Mary Waldron.
All right, anyone have any questions either for Charlie or Glenn?
Oh, it seems to offset each other.
All right, Charlie, read the roll, please.
Yes, John Messier,
Yes.
Steve Wolfle,
Yes.
Pam Hasner,
Yes.
Michael Lambert,
Yes.
Daniel Salvucci,
Yes,
Mary Waldron,
Yes,
motion carries.
All right, you want to go to the next part, Charlie? There you go.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So the MPO at your last meeting had released tip amendment number 3 to a public review and comment period. And we're here today to report on the public comments received and talk about the actual, any revisions to said amendment. So what this amendment entailed was the addition of section 5310 community transit grant project awards, and we'll quickly go through what they were. 3 were for Brockton Area Transit. 1 was for Old Colony Planning Council, Area Agency on Aging, and there were 2 on the side for South Shore Community Action Council on operating assistance and planning, and then the purchase of vehicles was the 3rd one. And during the public comment period, MassDOT and OCPC coordinated offline. We noticed one of the projects was actually missing, and that's project number 8 is for the Brockton area ARC, was a acquisition of a van for service expansion. We had noticed that it was in the actual 2022 Community Transit Grant Awards, but it had not been listed in the active section of Grants Plus. So in the original amendment that went out on the street, it didn't have project number 8. MassDOT had sent in a comment on the tip amendment during the public comment period, if we would be so kind as to add this project back in to this mix. So it's actually 8 projects and not 7. Next slide, Sean. Next slide. And this is a summary of the public comments, and see the second line there from MassDOT was please add in the Brockton area art project for $52,000. So staff reports that there's a revised tip amendment number 3, so it's the 8 projects instead of 7. And staff reports that this amendment navigated the public comment period successfully and supports the addition of project number 8, where this
Okay.
was
Oh,
consistent with the award. So
all that matters.
All right, can I get a motion and a second? And can the motion include adding project 8 into this amendment, amendment 3?
I'll motion Dan Salvucci to approve it.
Is there a second?
second, Mary Waldron.
All right, any questions or comments on this?
Looks good.
Charlie, you want to read the roll?
yes, John Messier,
Yes.
Daniel Salvucci,
Yes,
Steve Wolfle,
Yes.
Pam Hasner,
Yes.
Michael Lambert,
Yes.
and Mary Waldron.
Yes,
Motion carries.
All right, thank you for those, Charlie. So let's move on to the next agenda, which is agenda item 7. So Charlie, I don't know who's handling this. Is this you?
This will be our principal transportation planner, William McNulty.
All right, go ahead, Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To give you an update on the bipartisan infrastructure law. So as you all know, that legislation carried forward a lot of transportation funding programs that we're all well familiar with, but it also introduced a couple of new, more than a couple, but today speak to 2 that pertain really to this region. Additional funding opportunities, and one of those is the Safe Streets for All program, sometimes shortened as SS4A. and the other is the Reconnecting Communities pilot program. So SS4A, notice of funding opportunity for that came out earlier this spring, and then the notice of funding opportunity for Reconnecting Communities pilot program came out more recently. So I'll talk briefly about these two programs and then talk about what we are looking at in the MPO. So Safe Streets for All. The main objective of this is to provide supplemental additional focus on safety planning and safety initiatives. Obviously several existing programs have a focus on safety, but this is kind of an additional program. So if you want to go to the next slide, Sean. So who can apply for this grant? So this is MPOs can, local communities can, tribal governments can, and it can also be multi-jurisdictional agreements. So if there's a safety issue that stratifies two jurisdictions, those two jurisdictions can work together and apply for a grant. You can see, so there are basically two types of grants under this program. There is developing safety action plans and also implementation grants. So obviously the first one, developing safety action plan, that's really the planning component of this, whereas the implementation would be more at making actual improvements. So generally, to apply for, not jump ahead, but to apply for implementation, to apply for a construction grant, it would have to be identified in a local safety action plan. Most jurisdictions do not have a safety action plan. So, and none of the communities in this MPO nor the MPO itself has a safety action plan. So that would be the first step that we're looking at. But you can see, just to summarize, this program is kind of really community driven, locally driven. As I mentioned, it's not meant for a state DOT to apply for. They're looking for getting initiative from the ground up. So they're looking for local leadership. They're looking for community engagement, looking for social equity, environmental justice, a lot of safety analysis. So if I go to the next slide, and you can see some of the other things so policy programs that would be fall under developing a safety plan. And then you can, some of the, once you have a safety plan, then after that, you can apply for implementation grants. So I've been working with, MassDOT Safety Division. Like I said, DOT cannot apply for this grant, but they've been extremely helpful to this MPO so far in identifying ways that we could possibly look at this. So, there is definitely a partnership between, as it always is, between the MPO and the and MassDOT, and as well as the local communities. So, right now we're kind of in that outreach process, reaching out to our communities and collaborating. If you want to go to the next slide, and we'll just skip ahead to I'll talk about reconnecting pilot now, or reconnecting communities. So jump next slide. Next slide. Okay, so reconnecting communities. So this is another grant opportunity that came out of the bill. So with this, the objective of this program is it's kind of unique. So the federal government's recognizing that past infrastructure improvements, while well-intended, may have had adverse effects on communities and created economic disadvantage. So the objective of this program is to identify those areas where this may have occurred and basically mitigate it or improve it. So just like the SS4A, there are two components. So there's planning opportunities and then actual capital improvement opportunities. So this one, we found out about this one more recently. I'd say probably like 3 weeks ago, I think. Came across this notice funding opportunity, and that, USDOT is just now kind of ramping up their informational process with webinars. So we're all kind of still learning about this, but it's a good program. So unlike the SS4A, state DOTs can apply for this one, as well as other entities that can apply for SS4A. So MPOs can, local communities can. I believe multi-jurisdictional agreements can also apply for it. So that so examples of this, and just kind of, in not saying you could definitely get grants. It's just kind of the type of things that they're looking for. So, for example, in Brockton, we have the railroad that splits the city. So, potentially arguments can be made that that creates a economic disconnect between the east side of the city and the west side of the city. Anyone well familiar with the city knows that it's very difficult for motor freight to traverse from east to west with the downtown viaducts. They kind of have to hit the viaduct just right in the middle of the roadway, straddle that yellow line to make it underneath. So it's very difficult. So there's definitely that's definitely a hindrance to economic development in the city, as well as a little further north on the line, up near the northern border of the city, the Howard Street Bridge over the railroad tracks. That bridge is too low for most rail freight. Some rail freight can get under there, but for most rail freight, that clearance is too low. So that would be another hindrance to industrial and commercial development in the city, where it really limits rail freight in and out of the city. So that's one example. Another example might be like Route 18 in East Bridgewater, where that facility literally bisects the town center, creates a disconnect from the east side of the town center to the west side of the town center. Even if you're in a car, it's kind of challenging to cross from one side to the other, and if you're on foot, it's very difficult. So that might be an opportunity where this type of program could be applied. And those are the kind of things that we're looking at right now. This is very new, and we're kind of, feeling our way through it like everyone else. So just jump forward, Sean. So again, like I say, there's planning grants and then there's capital construction grants. So I think, obviously, if we were going to apply for anything, it'd be kind of a planning grant at first. See, who's eligible. Jump ahead. So these are the two grant opportunities that we're working on right now. I say, most of my focus last couple of months has been on the Safe Streets for All. And I want to thank MassDOT Safety, specifically Bonnie Poland, for all the help that she's provided on this so far. And hopefully we apply for a grant. Just to, I think one thing that we're really looking at is the city of Brockton. So city of Brockton definitely has some pedestrian safety challenges throughout the city, but really concentrated downtown. A lot of pedestrian crash clusters that's overlaid with environmental justice populations. There's a strong economic development component to that. The safer you make it for pedestrians to move around the downtown of the city, obviously that's better for economic development, better for livability. So that's kind of an opportunity where that might be a very good application. So that's one area that we've been focusing on. So, but if you have any questions about either of these programs, certainly contact me, and happy to talk about it, and happy to hear any ideas that our communities might have, and very happy to work with anyone.
All right, thank you, Bill. Anyone have a question, Charlie?
Yeah, Bill, in the webinar that you did, do you have any idea on the difference in match requirements for the two? I think planning was 80-20 and capital was 50-50.
Yeah, correct. So for planning, as there is a 20% local match, and then for construction is a 50% local match. And there's also a cap on how much any particular state can receive. I forget what that cap is, but yeah, so there's also a cap. So, you know, rightfully, and you might imagine that there's going to be a lot of applications for this. And only a certain amount of the total total budget will be allocated to the states, and then lesser portion of that will be capped for any one particular state. Off the top of my head, I can't remember what that cap is, but
Thank
All
you, Bill.
right. Others have questions? Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, just mostly a comment that, looking at Brockton, and I understand, Bill's talking about the bridges that you have to go under, the old stone bridges that you have to go under the railroad track, and some of the trucks have to go exactly in the middle. I don't know, looking at that, there's an historical factor, and I think it would not be in the best interest of looking at that to tear those down and rebuild something bigger, because you'd have to raise the track, I imagine, or lower the street. You know, maybe you might want to dig out the street below it and lower the street level rather than destroy the bridge. It's just my comment, some way of doing it. It's got an historical factor in the city of Brockton, and I hate to see it go away. My opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, some history behind that. So over the years, I mean, I've worked here for 22 years. Over the years, there have
Long
been,
time.
yeah, there have been initiatives so I can't remember the year, but probably 10, 12 years ago, there was a project to kind of dig out the underpasses and lower the lower the roadway a little bit underneath each overpass, underneath the viaducts, I should say. You know, that the problem is you can only go so far, because you obviously have to have your slopes coming in and out of there have to be you have to be below a certain grade. So I think they've gone as low as they can.
Okay.
But yeah, so no, actually, I don't think anyone's tearing down the viaducts or anything like that. That's definitely not going to happen. But
Either that or maybe a way to look to reroute the traffic to go further distance around to get the buildings, but to find some way that possibly all trucks can go and change the truck route. That might be a way of going.
yeah,
You know?
so same thing with Howard Street Bridge. So anyone who drives on Howard Street knows that the incline to and from that bridge is already pretty steep. They really can't make that bridge any higher.
Right.
To sort of fix that would have be to lower the tracks, and obviously that'd be a monumental task. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of challenges.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right, anyone else have any questions or comments for Bill? Andrew, go ahead.
I just want to say thanks, Bill, for diving into these programs and covering them. I know that a lot of information is coming out of DOT about grant programs. So thanks for staying on top of them. I would also encourage everyone to keep tabs on the bipartisan infrastructure law website, and DOT has launched a new navigator website. I'll post the link, but it's, the intention is to help provide resources, especially for local agencies that might be interested in some of these grant programs, to get more access to technical support, walk through the grant application process, things like that. So
Thank you. Yeah, that navigator site is pretty very helpful. It's pretty cool.
Mary?
I'll be very quick. I just wanted to affirm also what Andrew was saying. I mean, OCPC staff is, we really do try to stay on top of this. Our economic development team has been meeting with our transportation team as well, because there's some other aspects that can be related and interrelated. And I hope that we can have like these updates potentially even on each of the, if not every meeting, but at least some updates along the way. And I saw that Evan from the City of Brockton's Planning Department is all over this. He knows what the cap is, and they're already digging in as well. So I think as we all kind of work together and be able to inform each other, I think to Andrew's point, there's just an onslaught of information and it's coming out in bits and pieces. It's almost like the census, right? It's just like you try to keep up with it and then they change it again. But thank you to OCPC's team. I really appreciate all the work you guys do.
Charlie?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I just, Bill and I were on the Reconnecting Communities webinar the other day, and there was certainly a familiar face as one of the panelists. It was former Secretary Stephanie Pollock, who's now Assistant Secretary for US DOT. And one of the talking points that Secretary Pollock had while in Massachusetts was transportation is recognized for not so much for what it is, but for what it does. And it's about connecting people and places and opportunities. And I thought that was a really nice talking point that was echoed through the Reconnecting Communities program. So it was, she brought the Massachusetts perspective and some of the talking points while at MassDOT. So this is layered within the Reconnecting Communities program. So I thought that was a really nice aspect of this program. And thanks to Andrew from Federal Highway, we actually have a slide later on with the DOT Navigator. And we think that's a great idea that the US DOT had to launch something like that, especially where there's so many grant programs coming out and NOPOs and whatnot, and just the opportunity for the technical assistance. I thought it was a really customer friendly thing that the US DOT launched in recent weeks.
All right, anyone else? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, everyone.
To the next agenda item, which is agenda item 8, administrative matters, other business, date and time of next meeting. Charlie, what do you have for administrative matters and other business?
Sure. Thank you, Chair. So we have two main items, updates, and then scheduling a next meeting. So if you haven't heard, the legislature passed and the Lieutenant Governor signed into law a remote meeting extension, and this will go to March 31st, 2023. This was a compromise between the House and Senate versions. The Senate wanted December 23 and the House wanted March 31st with additional in-person requirements for quorum. So this is the compromise was March 31st with no in-person quorum requirement. So that's item 1, and the Lieutenant Governor signed this while Governor Baker was out of state over the weekend. So it's official. Item number 2. Next slide. Next slide. US DOT technical assistance and capacity building, as Andrew spoke to earlier. DOT Navigator is a one-stop shop for access to an array of resources across the DOT and provide technical assistance to help grantees navigate the grant application process. So, I mean, this is a really nice website, and it's packed with information and technical assistance and peer agencies to contact for additional information. And it also has a link to the BIL, Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. And for the casual observer, just point out that, and Bill spoke to it earlier, is while there are some new things within the BIL, this is a reauthorization of the federal transportation program. We like to talk about over the years, there have been many, such as ICE-T in 1992, T21, the FAST Act, MAP 21, and Safety Lou. So, packed in there is, formula programs, but as Bill spoke to earlier, is nationwide competitive discretionary grant programs such as Reconnecting Communities and the Safe Streets for All program. So this is a great website. It's kind of like a one-stop shopping, if you will. And, nice thing about this is you can put in your email address to be on their update list to keep up to date. So I think this was a really nice launch of a website to, to get technical information and resources out to potential applicants. Next slide. And this was also a part of that was the Thriving Communities program about communities, helping communities to identify and develop and deliver transformative transportation projects. So the USDOT has really put a lot of information on this website, and not to, well, spoiler alert. So turn off your microphones if you don't want a spoiler alert. Hopefully in the next edition of the ever popular OCPC newsletter, we'll have an article on this very DOT Navigator section. So we're sharing this information far and wide. So
Secrets
as I
out,
think we're
Charlie.
close to 1,000 recipients on that newsletter. So there's no excuses for not knowing, right? So next slide. Hey, the date and time of our next meeting. These were kind of being brought forward as to hold these dates, as we don't have any action items being released by the MPO today, nor expected to be endorsed over the summer. So these are more for hold the date, and we'll send out a cancellation further on if the MPO does not need to meet for an action item, as we're, in the last couple of months of the federal fiscal year, which ends the end of September. So, as far as a tip in the UPWP, I believe we're in good shape and we don't foresee any action items coming up, but please save these dates nonetheless.
All right, thank you, Charlie. So as Charlie said, please hold these dates, but I think as Charlie said, kind of you guys have wrapped up all your work for the next couple of months. So I think with that, I think we just need to adjourn, right, Charlie?
Yes, I know Mary put it in the chat, but I'd like to take a public welcome of Mary Ellen DeFrias, the new GATRA administrator. Welcome, Mary Ellen.
Oh,
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah, welcome.
all right, with that, can I get a motion and a second to adjourn, please?
I'll motion to adjourn. Dan Silverchi Whitman.
Don Macia, why don't you go ahead and do your official vote, your second?
Okay, I second to adjourn.
All right, all in
Well, we
favor, say
missed-
aye.
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 Any opposed, abstentions? All right, everyone. Thank you for today.
Stay cool.
Likely you're going to be have the rest of the summer off, so please enjoy yourself. Stay cool, as someone said, and we
Yep,
will
yep.
in a month or two or something like that. Take care, everybody.
Have a
See ya.
good summer.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.